Hello everyone, it's David here live from the Ibrox press room. I'm here after the press conference which followed today's EGM between Andrew Cavenagh and Parag Marathi. They are now here, firmly ensconced. The EGM, as you'll have heard earlier on the Daily Update, the motions proposed at it were approved with over 98%. I'd be intrigued to know what the 1.5% were voting against, but maybe there's a margin for error on these votes. There usually are, certainly in public office, of about 0.5%. But yes, all through, all done. And with me now is Colin McMillan. Colin, who attended the EGM and was also at today's press conference. And we'll talk about Andrew Cavenagh today, and we'll maybe have a little bit more tomorrow on Parag Marathi. That's to do with embargoes. We're always very honest with you guys here on Heart and Hand, and we'll talk about Andrew Cavenagh today and what he told us. First of all, Colin, you were at the EGM, and we've heard from Cammy earlier. What was your take on the event?
Yeah, I was on the Cammy earlier as well, and I've had a little bit more time to digest it now and think about it, and I don't think I've really changed much my opinion. I was impressed by what was said. I was more impressed by how it was said. There's definitely a feeling of there's adults in the room that know what they're doing, they've got a plan and they're here to implement it. Real confidence displayed from the guys on the stage today as well, and they seem to be saying and doing the right things. They're not promising the world, they're not saying we're going to do this or we're going to spend that, but they are promising they are going to put us in a better position than they found us. And the way things have been for us recently, I think we'll happily take that. I'm quietly optimistic about how things are going, and this afternoon hasn't changed that.
They're very impressive individuals, as you might expect. And one thing that I thought became clear in the press conference is they are never ever going to give away anything unless they want it to. It's, you know, that they have their answers ready, and they're very, very good at, in a polite way, saying, yes, we can talk about that, or no, we can't talk about that. The first thing of interest, I suppose, was Andrew Cavenagh was asked when he was first contacted. He said it was last October, and he was in a coffee shop on the Upper East Side getting ready to go to a baseball game, where he got a phone call from an investment banker in the US who knew he had an interest in A, football, and B, acquiring a football team. And by the way, folks, he always calls it football. So you'll be glad to know. So does Parag. So they've certainly been around the block in that regard. And he said he'd attended, 5 World Cups and 5 European Championships, yeah. And he's watched games all around the world. Says he loves ticking off different grounds and stadiums as he goes round, and clearly does love the game and understand it. But he said, yeah, he'd let it be known he was interested in acquiring a football club, and he said, and of course it had to be a name that I recognised instantly and that got the blood pumping, and Rangers did that.
Yeah, there's certainly some myth busting today about these guys just being American businessmen here to make a buck. They are definitely football people. That is evident from how they talk about the game, how they talk about rivalries across the world of football they're aware of, and how ours compares to that. And they seem to, like, football really gets them going. They spoke a little bit about the opening 5 minutes of matches at Ibrox and games they've been to, and hearing the crowd and how exciting it was.
Yeah,
that's what gets them going.
He said, Andrew Cavenagh said that the 5 minutes before the game is, he finds, just the most exciting time when the players are coming on and everybody's up for it and Ibrox is screaming, and that was something that he got a real buzz out of.
Yeah, they spoke about just the challenge that's here for us, but they're not shirking away from that challenge. They're well aware of what they need to do, and they've got a plan in place, like I said, in a blueprint that they believe they can put into action and make it happen. Not going to be easy, but they've got a plan to do it, and listening to them today, there's no reason to disbelieve them. They seem to know their stuff.
Sustainability was a key word. They said that repeatedly, and Andrew Cavenagh focused in on that. He said that they're not going to come in and spend money for the sake of it, win one title and then head off, as he put it. He also spoke at the EGM about the fact that it needs to be something for the long term. And they were, though, quite relaxed. And I felt that Andrew Cavenagh was very much, you know, that there's money there if it needs to be. We want to acquire players, but we want to acquire the right ones for the longer term. How important do you think it is that Rangers build something as opposed to maybe doing something very quick? It would be lovely. I mean, I'd love it. We all would. But they're not going to do that. And he mentioned there, Andrew Cavenagh mentioned about the right player and the right signing for the club.
Well, these guys are more than capable of coming in and doing something really, really quick, I think, if that's what they wanted to do. We had that when we won 55, and then look what happened after it. I'd much rather be sitting here talking about 56, 57, 58, 59. So I think long term is key. I know we're all we're starving for success. We're starving for those silver things to be up in the sky, pointed at us. But I think you have to look at a kind of longer aim of it, and rather than just that immediate success, the sustained success is what we all really want. It's what we grew up, it's what we're used to, it's what being a Rangers fan's all about, or it certainly should be. It's what we had when we were growing up. We want the next generation to have that as well. So there might need to be some patience shown. They're not going to just throw money at it, but they will put money in the right places, and they'll maybe spend money which you might not see the benefit of right away, but the benefit of it will come in years to come with player sales, putting foundations in place to grow, commercial sides of the club and everything else. So the big thing I got from them today is that nothing is really off the table. They're open to ideas, they're open to scope. There's so many things that they've not even looked at yet or had a chance to properly analyse and start thinking of, and that's quite exciting given the stuff they have done already.
Yeah, one of the things that Andrew Cavenagh said, Colin, was 20 million was the figure that they felt was right to put in at this point. However, he said, I was very careful not to say that it will be 20 million and that's it, nor would I out and out say that, yes, this amount will come in later in the year. And I think that there was very much that note of there is a certain amount of information I'm prepared to release today. There's a certain amount of information I'm going to say. There were a few questions at the press conference which, at the EGM, I apologise, where people were asking things like, who are we buying and what are the transfer spend and how much are we going to spend and whatnot. They're not going to release that type of information, it's fair to say. I think that Andrew Cavenagh spoke about they've hired Russell Martin because he ticked the boxes that they wanted, that he impressed the most during the interview process. But he also said he won't be rushed into decisions either. If they need to wait for a player, they'll wait for a player to get the right one. Equally, if they make the decision, then they will go ahead and do that.
I mean, this is all proper business-like decision-making processes, David. This is kind of what you want a proper, successful, healthy, long-term, successful business to be doing. Football does fall into this own little basket case where everything's important right now and do it now and stuff. But when you've got guys that have actually walked the walk and talked the talk in the past, both in San Francisco and currently at Leeds as well, I think you do have to trust them a little bit. And in terms of asking transfer budgets, asking player stories, etc., we just have to get used to we're not going to know stuff like that, and we never will. And that seems to be the way it Leeds as well. I've seen a lot of Leeds podcasts and Leeds fan media recently talking about the most time they hear about a signing is an hour or so at most before they actually appear. And you know what, that's not a bad thing, because we live in a country where if there is a decent player that's interested in coming to Scotland, both teams are probably interested in them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good thing that it's going to get really quiet, and it's something that our fans are going to have to get used to. And we, who love coming on here and talking about signings, talking about rumours, talking about players, are going to have to get used to as well. But yeah, they spoke a lot about the manager coming in, the four bits of criteria. In terms of they wanted a coach that would coach in the style they wanted, build the culture they wanted, develop the talent they wanted, and could win matches. And they said that Russell Martin was unanimously, for everybody involved in the process, the outstanding candidate in that regard. They're fully behind this man.
Yeah, and again, I think some of the questions were, there may be pressure at the start. Andrew Cavenagh said, look, we want to be in the Champions League every year, we understand it. But I didn't get the sense of that they were going to be swayed, if you like, by from moving from the right decision. Now, part of that is, of course, just what you mentioned there. I think always a good gauge of the future, although it's not perfect, but is to know the past. And Parag Marat at Leeds, the way he's operated, we were told by the Leeds and Rangers season ticket holder on the site that he'll do what he thinks is right, and quite often he's proved right. But Andrew Cavenagh, there when he was asked about the decision making processes involved, and he said, "Look, you hire people that you're confident can do the job. We've done that in Kev and in Russell." But again, he kept coming back to this word sustainability, and he kept coming back to the word discipline. And I think that was very much something that he was keen to put. I suppose this is a long-winded way of me saying, I don't get the impression that they will particularly bow to the stadium. He was asked about the stadium and he said, look, I was at Parkhead and the atmosphere was incredible and it was fantastic. I was here at Fenerbahce, I've seen the stadium at its best. He said, but I was here at Dundee United and as he put it, when I saw the stadium at its coldest. And he said, so I do understand the pressure. And he said, but that's great. That was kind of one of the things they wanted from a club. They wanted a club that did have expectation every year to win rather than just a hope. They did want somewhere that's very pressurised. But again, they have faith in their decision-making ability.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think they have a game plan in mind and they are going to execute it. If they suddenly realise they need to change it or do something differently, I think they will do that. But I don't think they're going to do it just because 20,000 people in one of the stands are shouting at them every week about it. And that's maybe something we just have to get used to and learn as well.
And he won't be here every week.
He won't be, so he'll be away from that a little bit as well.
That.
The other thing with that as well is these are new guys coming in. We need to give them a whole clean slate and trust that they are going to do the right thing rather than assume it is going to be wrong. And if things don't happen quite as quickly as we want, or we sign a player but we would rather have an different player, we need to just suck it and see, because the track record these guys have is getting it right. So we need to trust them to do so.
Yeah, that's the case. So on the update tomorrow, I'll have more on what Parag Marat had to say specifically. We'll also have some quotes from Andrew Cavenagh up in written form up on the website later tonight, so you can see in detail what he had to say. But certainly initial impressions, and that's all it is, right? And it's got nothing to do with whether or not, at the end of the day, actions always speak louder than words. Decisions taken, whether they're right or wrong, will speak louder than words. But I certainly don't feel these are cowboys that are in here. They come across as knowing exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, where they want to go. Again, that doesn't mean they're going to get there. But I certainly didn't come away with that gnawing feeling at the base of the stomach that I maybe did, sometimes when I heard other people speak.
Yes, we've had those feelings in the past. We've also not had those feelings, then been bitten in the past as well. So we do have to be careful. But so far, I don't like using the word green flag, but so far all the flags are green and positive looking. So we've got to hope for the best and hope this is the start of something quite special.
You're right there, mate. Right, well, folks, as I say, we'll have more tomorrow on the daily update on our Patreon. That's patreon.com/heart and hand. If you're not a member of that, then I urge you all to go and sign up. Colin, thank you for everything you did today.
Absolute pleasure. Back to work tomorrow for a rest, I think.
And I'll be on here tomorrow. So until then, folks, have a splendid Monday evening. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.